Sometimes things come into the studio very quickly and I just don't know what to do with it, or I don't have a place for it. So I just leave it. And I'm tired of just leaving things. I am taking control back of my studio space. I'm getting back to the core of who I am. It's funny how you have to give yourself permission to do that, but yeah, when you've got a certain system that you've been following for over 25 years, you do have to sort of talk to yourself and say, it's okay. You've been doing it that way? We're gonna move in a new path this way, and it's okay. Because it was overwhelming for me. I've been putting this off for years.
You go girl kind of energy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I need that because this is just I'm slightly on the verge of hoarding. It feels like there's a path to get to my desk.
But I'm hoping that I can share some of those tips and things that I've been doing so that maybe you can do the same with your studio or creative space. Let's get to it. Welcome back. And if you're new here, my name is Julie. And on this channel, we talk about tips, tricks, tools, adhesives, materials, and specific mosaic projects, all to shorten your learning curve when it comes to creating mosaic art. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please consider subscribing. If you've been following me here on the channel, or at least for the last, let's say 6 months or so, then you know I've been working towards the goal of cleaning up my studio space. Now, I've been making mosaic art for over 25 years, and I've sort of picked up this bad habit of when I'm done with tesserae or adhesive or a tool or whatever, that I just sort of either put it down on available countertop space or tabletop space or floor space. And I just leave it, thinking I'm going to leave it there for a day or two, and then I'll put it away. And I picked up the bad habit of not revisiting that thing that I put down. And when you multiply it over many things, well, you create the mess that I've created in my studio space. I am, at my core, a neat freak, and I'm sure there are some people in my life who know me very well who are going to be shocked by what they see today. And let me reassure you, friends and family, I'm not a messy person. I am still that neat freak, Julie. But I've picked up some habits, and whether it was because of the season of life that I was in, maybe I was in a hurry moving from one project to another, maybe I didn't know what to do with the stuff. And I also know that I have, along the ways, and you guys, if you've watched a number of my videos regarding materials and how I have come into getting materials, sometimes things come into the studio very quickly and I just don't know what to do with it, or I don't have a place for it. So I just leave it. And I'm tired of just leaving things. I am taking control back of my studio space. I'm getting back to the core of who I am, which is everything has its place. And it's like a gift to myself. And so I'm hoping that in this video today, that I can share some of the things that I've done along the way to clean up my studio space. Now, it is not ready. It's still in transition, as I will call it, but I'm hoping that I can share some of those tips and things that I've been doing so that maybe you can do the same with your studio or creative space. Now, I know you clicked on this video, so obviously you have an interest. Maybe you're curious, but we owe it to ourselves as artists to have a desirable space. And that desirable space may be a little corner of your dining room. If you know my origin story, that's how I started. But it is up to us to create a pleasing space that promotes creativity. This is, some of us that that can do this full time, this is where we spend most of our waking hours. And for some of you who work a full-time job outside of the home and you can steal away 20 minutes, an hour a day or more sparse time, you want it to be a spot where you can sit down, it makes you happy, and you can get right to work with what you've been waiting to do. So in my journey of cleaning up my studio space, I would go on Pinterest just to get inspired. And I would start to see these little pins or posts come up. And it did sort of seem like Pinterest and the universe were sort of co-conspiring to like, hammer it home, Julie, you need to clean up your space. Enough already. We've allowed you the time to deal with the season you were in, but you need to take control back of your space. Why? Because at my core, when things are neat and tidy in my space, I feel great, and I have noticed that I'm focused and I'm operating at my highest, best level. So last January, so that's January 2024, I started the process of cleaning up my studio space. And I was going to give myself the whole year. So in December of 2024, I wanted my studio done. And so I started documenting what I was doing. A little bit here and there. I didn't capture everything that I was doing, but I definitely filmed the beginning because it was so, I had let things get so out of control. And in reviewing the video footage from this past year to prepare for this video, I was shocked at what I was dealing with. I really, and I'm not going to say, I'm sure some people say, oh my gosh, I would be so embarrassed if somebody saw my space. I'm not embarrassed because I don't feel like this is who I am. I do feel like it was sort of temporarily who I was during a season of, life stuff. Life stuff, like I said a little earlier, things just happen. It's a perfect storm. So I'm not embarrassed, but more importantly, I want to share so that I can be transparent with you, vulnerable, and maybe it'll help somebody out there. Maybe you are struggling with your space. You don't know where to begin. I've got some tips on how I got started because it was overwhelming for me. I've been putting this off for years. So I'm really hoping that what I share with you today, not only will I be putting it out there as sort of my contract to myself that I'm going to clean up my space, but also so that you can see where I've started. I'm human, just like everybody else. What you see behind me, not realistic to the organization and tidiness that you will see in my studio space. But this is more of who I am, and I know that, and it's time to get back to who I really am. And I do love that all of this cleaning up mindset is also helping me sort of take a look in other areas of my life that also need tidying up or cleaning up, making space, getting by with less. I like that idea, and I'm excited to see where this goes once I'm done with my space. So in today's video, I want to share my studio cleanup journey with you, as well as give you some tips in case you're struggling like I was with what to do with all of your mosaic and stained glass stuff. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started. And to get things started, we're going to go all the way back to January 2024 so I can show you the mess that I was dealing with. And then on the other side of that, we'll pick things up and start going through my studio, and I'll share those tips with you that helped not only get me started, but kept that momentum going through this very daunting task.
And so it begins, the craziness of that. I'm finally cleaning up my studio, and it is a long time coming. I've allowed stuff like this to accumulate, and I've had it. I've absolutely had it. I am going to start with this little area because to me it's like low-hanging fruit. I'm gonna build two like IKEA cabinets to go there, so I will be able to get some stuff off the floor up there. But it's time. It's absolutely time. And now I am ready to be very vulnerable and reveal to you, because this has got to change. Lots of negative energy, and I'm tired of it. I'm just absolutely tired of it. So I'm going to tackle this area first. And I think it's going to give me some low-hanging fruit kind of wins that will, I'm very motivated to do this. I'm very, very motivated, but I think this is just going to give me like an immediate, like a good big chunk of like, you go girl kind of energy. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I need that. I need that because this is just slightly on the verge of hoarding. It looks like, it feels like there's a path to get to my desk, which is over there. It's a mess. We're going to get to it. Okay. We're going to get to it. But yeah, I'm going to do this sort of, low hanging fruit, easy win. I've got to build IKEA furniture, which I don't like doing, but I'm going to do it because it's going to be awesome. This space is going to be awesome again. Okay? Okay. So obviously I showed this to you already. This is like where boxes and packages come in. I've got my filming and recording equipment here, props, more like substrates. This right here is an old ceramic wall hanging that I made that I think I have a note on there. I'm going to break that down, maybe use it in a mosaic, but like I haven't hung this up in 20 years. I got to get rid of it. It's just, and then I've got, random stuff like this is an extra game my son had for his Nintendo Switch. Like just, laying here. Like, what is going on here, Julie? These are cookbooks that I need to do something with. Like, I can't even get to my little glass gems. I've just got like random like CDs, DVDs, packing those up. They're going away. All of my like shredding stuff. So I would be able to like work at my desk, come around, come over to the glass grinder, and bam. But this has been like, got my mosaic cake. I've got so much stuff, like this has got to go. Couple projects, couple videos coming up using glass bottles, possibly in ways you are not expecting. This is my extra chair, which is covered with clothes. This is like, I would bring clothes into the studio for videos and wasn't sure what I was going to wear. And like, they're just like thrown on the back of the chair. Okay. These are some blue cabinets that I have. You can't even tell, but they're just packed with stuff on top. There's my ring light. But I mean, like, yeah. Like, I can't get to this stuff. Why? Because there's so much stuff in front of it, too. This is what you don't see behind me as I'm sitting.
doing videos. All of these silicone molds. You know I love silicone molds. Yeah, that's a lot. Those need to be put somewhere. Yeah, we've just got stuff that needs to go somewhere or go away. I'm not a minimalist, but I could do much, much better, and my brain would thank me for it. I just don't function well like this, and I'm gonna do something about it. Now that you've seen what I started with, I needed to make some plans because not everything was going to be given away. So I needed to come up with more storage and make some changes with my existing storage. I got started by cleaning out this area in my studio where I'm going to add 2 cabinets. Some of this stuff will eventually be stored in the new cabinets, and some needs to be gone through and made a decision about regarding their next step. Now I'm going to build 2 IKEA cabinets which match all of the other cabinets in my studio. Now ultimately, I decided to go with 2 of the square 4 opening bookcases instead of a single 8 opening bookcase, or 2 of the vertical 4 opening bookcases, because the square bookcase was easier for me to handle and I wouldn't need any help getting it in my car or out of my car, and I could build it myself. And once I had built the bookcases, I referred to my plan as far as what containers I would put on them. If you haven't seen my other videos where I talk about how I store all of my Mosaic tesserae and stained glass and all other materials, I'll include a link to the playlist down below in the description. They're really very thorough as far as the storage systems that I have created within each container. Once I got those bookcases built, I was off and running with getting things up off the ground and in place. My favorite. It was the mental lift I needed to keep going on what felt like a massive undertaking. So my suggestion to you on how to get started is to go with your lowest hanging fruit first. Only you know what that is. For me, it was this area in front of my desk that was sort of like a mishmash of stuff. For you, maybe it's just sorting tesserae or going through substrates. Whatever it is, do yourself a favor and start with something easy to keep your momentum going. And here's where I ended up with this little area that I started with. It's much, much better. It's not perfect or where I want it to be, but I'm excited so far. So the next area I want to tackle is like back there. When I am filming, this is going on in the corner, and this is like larger pieces of cardboard, and I have some like really big pieces of tile. So anyways, it's just some oversized pieces that I don't need them all, and so I need to just go through it. And then I want to get to these like blue cabinets here. I want to go through them. There's like a lot of stuff in there that's obsolete now. You know, like software, boxes of software, you know, for the Adobe suite and that kind of stuff that is obsolete now. So I just need to go through it, get rid of it, and like put stuff down there, because as you can see, the whole top of the blue cabinets are like packed with stuff. So that's what I'm going to work on next. So I got to work moving some of my filming equipment out of the way, and then started going through all of those oversized pieces of cardboard and foam board. Now I'm keeping some of the foam board because I like to use them for product shots and whatnot. But for the most part, that collection of stuff will be greatly reduced. And then next, I got started going through those blue cabinets. I had so many old software boxes and DVDs and things that I no longer needed or was interested in keeping anymore. Oh, the emotional baggage. You know, sometimes we don't realize what we've got until we open those cabinet doors that we've been ignoring. Julie. This felt so good to do. And in going through those cabinets, I found some much needed storage space just by taking the 15 or 20 minutes to go through them. Do it, my friends. Open those cabinet doors that you've been ignoring and just do the thing. Again, this was another mental lift for me. Okay, next up is my work table. And I got to work cleaning it off, and I restocked some things that I use regularly, and I put away tesserae from a Mosaic project I did about, this is going to be embarrassing, about 2 years ago. Yeah. So I've cleaned off my work table a number of times since this video and repeated my same bad habits of not putting stuff away when I'm done with it. So one of my goals, not just for this year, but moving forward, I'm going to do better with keeping my work table cleaner. Even when it's cleaned off, I'm not going to use it as a dumping zone for whatever is in my hands. You know, it's amazing how much a clean work table affects my mind and focus, even if I'm not even coming to sit at my work table to work. Just walking by it and seeing it clear and clean, it really helps me mentally.
Well, as you can tell by the way I sound, I had the flu. I'm a horrible patient. Not that I'm ill-behaved, I just don't rest and take it easy when I start feeling bad. So I just get impatient. I'm just not a good patient. So anyways, I'm going to do some quiet work in here with the studio cleanup. You know, just whatever I can do to keep moving forward, but also not push myself. You know, this is just what we have to do sometimes to feel like we're making a dent in things. And I just feel like, look, new cabinet. What? I'm not feeling great, but I also, I can't lay down and rest because we had a tornado go through here on Sunday, and it actually took out a couple of our oak trees. And so they are cutting down the oak trees today. So there's no way I could rest anyways. So I'm upright, and I'm just going to do some low impact stuff. I might be feeling slightly better today. I might be. Okay. Future Julie here. It's been about a week since that last bit of video that I took, and I did not have the flu. I have something called RSV. It's some sort of virus with my lungs. My head cold or whatever this is doing better. But I have RSV. Coughing, wheezing, can't catch my breath. So I'm on all sorts of treatments and such to help. But obviously, I just wanted to pop in here to say that it was in fact not the flu. I thought it was the flu because the flu was going around in my house. So anyways, I'm just taking it easy. This was not what I was expecting. This is a gotta ride it out kind of thing. I'm still going to do some small things that I can. You know, cleaning up my desk doesn't take a whole lot of energy. If there are some small things that I can do that I don't have to exert energy, then I'm going to do them. So, anyways, just wanted to pop on and say, I was wrong. It was not the flu. Okay, back to the video.
One thing about me is that I don't relax maybe as much as the next person. And so if I'm sick and I voluntarily lay down, I'm in bad shape. So I continued working while having the RSV, but found some, quote, quiet work I could do. Now, I've always loved magazines. You guys know I used to work in magazine publishing for many, many years, and I especially love them for inspiration, whether that's for mosaics or cooking or working out or other crafts or whatever. And in the past couple of years, I've not only torn out a lot of pages from magazines, but I've also gathered quite a stack of magazines where I still needed to go through them to tear out the pages that I had dog-eared. So this was a perfect time to go through all of those and write comments or ideas on them, since I needed to be, quote, quiet. And each page that I tore out was placed in the appropriate stack so that moving forward, everything would be organized by subject and easier for me to locate. So this was good, quiet work, and looking at those pages always fuels my inspiration for colors and design ideas and possible future subjects for me to explore for mosaics, and of course, new recipes. Okay, so a big growing situation in my studio are the Christmas-related substrates. It was getting out of control, and quite frankly, they're not really where I'm at anymore in my mosaic work, or at least not at the level of the amount of substrates that I have. I've been wanting to go through these bins and containers for years now, and so I was really looking forward to this part of the studio cleanup. I knew I would make a lot of progress with this particular area. Okay, so I started with 6 storage containers, and they were filled to the top with Christmas substrates. I'm talking ornaments and tabletop pieces and garland and wreaths and trees. You name it. Man, oh man, I was so happy to go through those containers. I know that part of the reason I hadn't done it yet was that emotionally, for some reason, I wasn't ready to get rid of this stuff. Yet I knew I would never use it in my work. So I needed to get rid of it. Somebody else could put it to good use. But also, I had collected so much that I didn't feel like digging through it at all. So as I mentioned, I started with 6 containers, and I ended up with, can you guess? I ended up with 3 containers. That's right, I cut my substrate inventory in half, and you know I was patting myself on the back for that. So I'd say that was a good job paring things down, and I'm sure I could get rid of more, but I'll hold off for the moment. Okay, so when you watch my videos, see, there's the background. Whoop, pair of pants are hanging to dry. This is real life, folks. This is what is behind me. So I sit here. This is what's behind me that you can't see. Now, I can't navigate this very easily when I need to get Tesserae out of the closet. So all of this stuff I need to do something with. So I've got a big container, and I'm going to put as much of this stuff. This is future videos. Some of this stuff, like the spray paint, needs to go outside. But these are future videos, and I've already written stuff down, you know, in list form, but I just need this gone. This is driving me like super crazy. So I'm going to pack this up. So if you watch my videos on a regular basis, you're probably surprised to see what's behind me. Yep, another mess. Are you surprised? Aw, I'm disappointed you said yes. Come on now. Because I give the impression that everything is nice, neat, and in its rightful place when you see me on video here, right? If you're still watching by this point, then you know better. But we're cleaning it up, and we're changing our ways here. So I started a bin and put away all those future video ideas and mosaic projects so that everything is together and easy to find when I'm ready for them. More importantly, everything behind me when I'm filming videos is no longer there. This was actually really exciting for me, not just from the tidying up standpoint, but also because I'd forgotten some of the items that I had gathered, and it got me really pumped for future videos. Some things that I forgot we were going to talk about on this channel, and I think you're going to be excited too. And then of course, like most of the containers in my studio, I happily printed a label for the container so I know exactly what's inside. I love my label maker. I love it. And it has been put to huge, huge use in this studio cleanup. Okay, so next up, I needed to turn my attention to the containers where I keep all of my stained glass shards. So I store my sheets of stained glass in another area of the studio, but all of my shards get stored in containers. Again, if you want to see the system that I've created and how I store things, I will include a link to the playlist for all of my tesserae storage systems down below in the description. So I had purchased and sorted some stained glass shards, which I needed to put away. As I got deeper into my studio cleanup, I realized I needed to address my stained glass storage situation. In particular, those containers of bagged up stained glass shards. I felt like some of the colors were bursting at the seams in those containers. This is a good problem to have, right? And I definitely didn't want to unintentionally break a piece of glass before I decided what I wanted to make with it. So I moved some of the colors into bigger containers like my green glass. And other colors like my yellow glass needed just a little bit cut off in order to fit in a container. Now, I've run out of room in my stained glass caddies, and I'm not buying another one. So this is why I opted to cut a little bit off of a sheet of stained glass. It is a smaller sheet of stained glass compared to what I have in my caddies. But just in case you're curious, why am I cutting down a piece of glass? It's because I have no more room in my glass caddies, and I'm not expanding out. So I got to use what I have before I can buy anything else. And going back to what I was saying just a few minutes ago, I combined certain colors like pink and red or black, white, and gray because I don't have as many shards in those colors. My thinking is there's no sense in taking up premium shelf space with a container that just has one color of glass, which I only have a little bit of. I don't have the luxury of having all of these containers, one for each color. And then the nice thing about the labels that I print out is that the tape allows me to re-stick them to a different container. So I just pulled the label off of one container and I stuck it to another. So let me show you what I mean. Just as I was sharing what I did with combining colors of stained glass shards, which were similar, but that I also didn't have a lot of, I started combining other like items or similar items together in my studio. So for example, I have porcelain mosaic tiles in a variety of sizes, but I was keeping each size in its own container. Well, that takes up a lot of much needed storage space on my shelves, especially considering some of the sizes I have, I didn't have enough of to fill an entire storage container. It was like I was saying, I needed to give myself permission to do things differently. I don't know. It just felt that way. So I bagged up each size of the porcelain tile and I placed them in a larger container. This freed up some much needed shelf space, and now whenever I need porcelain mosaic tile, I know which container to get down from the shelf. So there were some things that I did in this studio cleanup that really moved the needle for me. And the goal was not just to go through stuff or to get rid of stuff, but it was to see what I have and then put like items together. And this happened across my studio, in everything. Tesserae, I do have some inventory of my finished pieces, and it was amazing how just by giving myself permission that it's okay to store like items together in one container, how it just sort of, it's funny how like you have to give yourself permission to do that, but yeah, when you've got a certain system that you've been following for over 25 years, you do have to sort of talk to yourself and say, it's okay. You've been doing it that way. We're gonna move in a new path this way, and it's okay. And I continued this same action when it came to other things in my studio, which were similar, but didn't fill up an entire container. I bagged things up, or I grouped similar or like items together. And I gained so much additional storage space by doing this. Give yourself permission to do things differently. It's okay. You're gonna survive. You're gonna be okay. And you know what? A lot of those times turns out even better than you could have imagined. Little steps, such as putting like items together, can be huge as far as freeing up storage space, but also helping you locate items you need faster. Some mosaic artists who create pique assiette mosaic, which is using plates, bowls, cups, tile, found objects, crockery, all sorts of things like that. Sometimes pique assiette mosaic artists don't like to break things down before they're ready to use it. You just never know, and you may want to break it a certain way. I subscribe to that thinking as well. However, I have broken down many plates, bowls, and cups due to storage. It is easier to store plates because they just stack on top, but when you get into bowls, sometimes it can take more space than, let's just say, the plates that stack up kind of more contained. And then when you get into mugs and cups, because they have handles, storage can be, at a premium. And so I ended up, because I had a box of mugs sitting behind me here on the floor, I ended up making the tough call. So for storage reasons, I felt the need to break down those mugs that were sitting in the boxes behind me. So I got to work and I broke down the mugs, trying to preserve what I thought were the important or interesting parts that I might use in a future mosaic. And then I grouped them together in zipper bags. So these will be much easier to store with my other collection of broken plates, bowls, and mugs. And keep in mind that if for whatever reason I didn't think that they should be broken down just yet, then I wouldn't have done it. But there wasn't anything special, and I felt breaking them down now wouldn't mess me up with a future mosaic. So that's just an important point that you want to keep in mind as you are cleaning up your studio or creative space. If you do have a large collection of mugs and cups or other things that maybe you've got vases or pottery, you do want to look at it and just sort of have a moment. Should I cut this down now or should I leave it intact? And a lot of the times that decision may come about if there is a design, not necessarily so much the shape of the mug or the thing. I mean, it could be, but oftentimes it might be the design that you may want to try to preserve for a future mosaic. Sometimes it might just be, I could care less about the mug, but the handle is so unique. Well, then go ahead and break it down. Get that handle. It's going to be much easier to store a handle than an intact mug. Okay, we've got just a couple more areas of the studio that I want to talk about. Next is my grout and thin set storage. Now, I've been wanting to change things up, so I purchased these food containers. I keep full-size bags of grout and thinset in the garage, but I like to keep a smaller, more manageable amount in the studio. And I was doing that by keeping them in freezer bags. Everything is great. It's a great system. It works fine. So once my bags in the studio were running low, I'd go out to the garage to refill them. And like I said, this system worked great for many, many years. But I just wanted a change. I wanted things to feel tidier and neater. I always keep 2 colors of grout and 2 colors of thinset. So I made labels for each, noting the manufacturer, the name of the product, and the exact color. And then I put them in the same airtight container that I used to keep my bags of thinset and grout in, because I don't believe that these food containers are airtight. Okay, so the last thing I'll bring to your attention in this video is the surface of my work table. So, my work table is a wood table. It is a dining room table. And I like to protect it by keeping it covered with a heavyweight brown craft paper. So I usually change this paper about once a year. And when I do, I like to tape it down so it doesn't move should I, like accidentally bump into it or something. And there's nothing like starting off with a fresh cover on my work table, especially if my cover had oil stains all over it from my glass cutters or whatever. I didn't like seeing those oil stains, but when I change the paper, they're gone, and this makes me so happy. And get ready, because in my next video, I'm gonna show you my studio. You're gonna get a tour. She is going to go through her glow up, and I'm excited. So how was that? First video recorded in 2025, but like for a month and a half. It is chilly in Miami. I'm loving it. Obviously, I can have 2 layers on and I'm not sweating, but I kind of look like a judge, don't I? I don't know. Y'all, the bottom kind of dropped out in at the end of 2024 in November. We just we had a little medical emergency. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. But my mom had a little situation, and it just took me out of the studio a lot. She's fine. She's doing great, but it was a bit of an emergency that needed to be tended to, and she was in the hospital for a while there. But she's doing fantastic. But it did keep me away from you guys, and I wasn't able to film a video in November and December. My phone is ringing. Who could it be? For more Mosaic inspiration, check out one of these 2 videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye!